What the fuck is up, people of the interwebs? Hello, welcome, and I hope you enjoy your stay as always. Today, I kinda have a long video, and you might be saying, why the fuck do you need a 14-minute long video to review an AK-12? Well, I'm only going to be reviewing this gun for a little bit, and then I'm going to be talking about something super fucking fascinating. So don't worry, if you came here just for a review of a gun, I got your back. But then, if you want to stay a little longer, I'm going to be talking about a really interesting article that will be linked in the description below. Now, the AK-12 has a fire rate of 650 RPM. Okay, I went 50 and 7 in this gameplay, which is pretty good. Pretty good. That's like a pretty. I don't know. I was pretty impressed with myself. I was proud of my gameplay. I know some of you guys are just goons and freaks, and you guys get crazy stats, but for me, I like this gameplay. I thought I did pretty good, pretty well. So, let's get back into it. The fire rate is 650 RPM. And that's really slow, man. That's really fucking slow. The fire rate is super dense, and it's not a very fast gun, but for whatever reason, if you have the right attachments, you can turn this gun into a laser beam, and you can just melt people. I mean, you can just melt through them. The muzzle velocity is 600 meters per second. That may not be relevant to you. It's not relevant to me, but I reviewed the Scar H yesterday, and the Scar H has a muzzle velocity of 400 RPM, like 410, and that's really slow. So there is a 200 meter per second difference. That means that the bullet from the AK-12 is shooting out faster than the bullet of the Scar H. And I don't really notice a difference, but I guess it's relevant. I don't really feel it when I'm playing with the gun, but who knows, maybe you guys do. When you burst the gun, it fires at 750 RPM, so it's much faster, and typically with these AK guns, when you burst them, they just fire a lot faster. I'm not a fan of the AK-12. I know you guys say, oh, you need to burst it. I don't give a fuck. I don't like the gun, so I'm not going to. But I'm sure that you guys know exactly what you're doing, and I have complete faith that the gun is amazing burst fire, AK-12 and AK-12. Now, one thing that you have to understand with this gun is if you're using it, then you can only use it in a very particular set of ways. So this map, Siege of Shanghai, it's very good because you have long sight lines if you want them. You can be aggressive while also keeping people at a distance. Now, because of the low RPM, you have to be careful because if you miss or if you're inaccurate, you're going to get fucked up. Also, if you don't have the right attachments, you're going to get fucked up. I tried this gun with an angled foregrip, did not work. I got destroyed. It wasn't until I unlocked the stubby grip at 120 kills with the AK-12 that I was really able to go off with this gun. And I think DICE put that limit so high for a reason. I think it was because they didn't want people to just dominate with the very first assault rifle day one of the game. So if you can suffer through the nonsense until 120 kills, you will get a big reward from this gun. But again, this really should be used with people that are insanely accurate, that can hit those chest to headshots. And if you're saying, oh, well, you know, you just need to be good and you just need to hit all your headshots and then you'll be fine, that's why these guns are so good. Okay, listen. Listen, motherfucker. This gun, and any gun for that matter, are really hard to get headshots with. I mean, you can tell me all day, oh, we'll just get headshots, and you might be able to do it on a PC, but on a console, it's much harder to get headshots. If a dude is running at you as an engineer and he's in your face, tell me how easy it is to get a headshot, because I guarantee you it's not. When a dude's head is bobbing up and down and he's running at you and he's doing all these jumping around, it's hard to hit those headshots. I don't even care if you have a PC and keyboard, that's hard to do. So, for me personally, I know some of you guys are goons and you can hit crazy headshots all over the fucking world, but for me personally, I aim for right in between the chest, so, right in between the chest, right in between the shoulders, so at the midpoint, which is just right in the center of your chest, and that is the largest part of your body, in between your shoulders. That's where you're broadest, and that's where you're going to be able to get be the most accurate, get the best kill possible. And that way, even if your aim deviates a little bit, you can it's not that big of a deal, because you'll still hit the target. Now, I also kind of go off with the pistol in this game. Not really relevant, but I do love me some G18 action, this little semi-automatic pistol, and I love using it. Now, in terms of playstyle, right, what's the type of player that should be using this gun? Well, I think this gun is either for noobs or it's for incredibly experienced players. If you're an incredibly experienced player, you will melt through people and you also have to be on the right map in the right circumstances up against the right team to make this gun work. Because if you're up against an MX4 close range, you're going to lose. That's all there is to it. If you shoot at the same time he shoots you, you're dead. So, you need to be able to keep people at a distance, you need to be able to be accurate. Now, new players to the game will enjoy this gun because it has no recoil. Just zero fucking recoil when you put on the right attachments. Even if you don't put on the right attachments, it has zero recoil. The reason that I say that you have to have the right attachments is because this gun can become wildly inaccurate if you don't have the right attachments. Stubby grip, muzzle brake is your go-to attachments for every gun. There are a few exceptions to that, like an M16 or an M4. But for the most part, you really want that stubby grip, muzzle brake. So, that about does it for my review about the AK-12. I really enjoyed the game. This is one of the better gameplays that I've posted up. I hope you enjoyed it. Now, if you've gotten everything you needed to out of this video, feel free to close it out. But if you want to hear about something super fucking interesting, then stay tuned. Alright, now the article will be posted down below in the link, or in the description. But I really found it fascinating. This is from Wired. This isn't from some weird pseudoscience website. But we're going to talk about education a little bit. And I personally have been awful at learning. I'm not good at it. High school, even college a little bit. You know, I do really badly when a professor or a teacher is sitting there just talking to me. Even if it's a really stupid, boring movie that was made in the 1950s or a PowerPoint. I just want to put my headphones on and go the fuck to sleep or mess around with my friends. I don't give a fuck. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people are like that. Some kids who get straight A's, I'm sure you guys are different, but the standard education model is super fucked up when you sit in class for 8 hours a day. In college, it's a lot less, but you know, you basically have loads of information just rammed down your throat, and you have to regurgitate it on test day. It's a silliness. It's like in history class, oh, well, you need to regurgitate these dates. And it's like, bitch, I have an iPhone. I can Google all that shit. Why is that relevant to my life? Why is that relevant to my experience? That doesn't make me more knowledgeable. What would make me more knowledgeable is if we start talking about ideas. Those are powerful, not what happened in 1945. Because I can Google that. That's easy. Statistics or whatever. I know there's a quote. Einstein said that he didn't know the distance in a mile. So, and people are like, what the fuck? How does Einstein not know, you know, how many feet are in a mile? Well, he's like, it's a statistic. I can look it up whenever the fuck I want. So it makes complete sense. He was a man of ideas. Now, I'm going to bring you guys a few examples of how education is changing. TED, if you don't know this website, it's like all the big creative people who have all these crazy ideas. They kind of go and speak at this conference. They're free videos online, super fascinating. But they funded this guy to create a bunch of schools. I think they gave him like $1 million, which isn't that much when you're creating a school, based off of the new education model. So let me give you an example of this new educational model, if I may. So this scientist, I think his name was like Mitra or some shit. He goes to India, and he puts a computer that's filled with microbiology, like, you know, microbiology, like courses and like, you know, pictures and shit, puts it in the middle of a village, and he tells the 10 to 14-year-olds, he says, you guys should really check it out. There's some interesting stuff on this computer. By the way, this whole educational new model that's coming out, it's supposedly creating the next generation of geniuses. So this is, you know, this should blow you away a little bit. Anyway, he tells these 10 to 14-year-olds, there's really interesting stuff on this computer, check it out. He leaves, doesn't teach them anything, he leaves, comes back 75 days later, and this computer, which was stuffed with microbiology information, these kids had, for whatever reason, understood it, and they were able to regurgitate it back onto a test. They were able to answer 1 in 4 questions correctly. He said, okay, that's interesting. He leaves for another 75 days, comes back, and they're able to get every other question correct. Imagine if he left for another 75 days. I guarantee you most of those kids would have gotten A's. These are 10 to 14-year-olds that are learning college-level courses in India. And when you think of India, you think of, like, dirty villages with cows farting everywhere. You know what I mean? Like, these are 10 to 14-year-olds. It just shows you the amount of potential that humans have. And the reason that I think humans have this potential is they talked about it in the article. If I was to put a screen in front of you, like a gaming PC, and I was to have a dot that was moving around on the screen, and you weren't controlling the dot, you were observing the dot, part of your brain shuts down. It just shuts down. Part of you is just like you don't give a fuck. But when you control the movement of the dot, your brain lights up. Your hippocampus connects to other parts of your brain, and you become much more engaged. So, educationally, this has a lot of significance, because when you control your learning, then you become much more engaged. And that explains me to a T. I love quantum physics. I love spirituality. I love researching really cool, in-depth ideas. But when you put me in a classroom and I'm supposed to sit down and sit still while some dude just talks to me, I'm not interested. I'm not interested at all. And I guess it's kind of hypocritical for me to be making a YouTube video where you're sitting down and listening to me, but, you know, I cuss a lot and I'm, you know, kind of wild and whatever. So hopefully this is a little more interesting to you. Anyway, another cool example of this in action, where people who are in control of their environments, in control of their learning, are able to really utilize their potential. You know, the title of the video is Ethiopian Genius, and this is kind of a perfect example in and of itself. But these guys dropped 45 iPads into Africa and into Ethiopia, which is a really poor village. You think of Ethiopia, you think of people just banging rocks against walls and shit. But these, you know, kids, I forget, it was like 2 weeks, maybe a week, it only took like a week or two, and these kids unboxed the iPads, right? They were boxed up. They figured out how to unbox the iPads. They figured out how to get to, like, the learning and spelling application. They were able to recite it to the scientist, and then they figured out how to use the camera on the iPad, and the camera was disabled. So they essentially hacked the iPad and figured out how to enable it. And I think it was, like, programmed to be disabled. It wasn't just the setting you could switch on. So these Ethiopian kids hacked a fucking iPad. That's just amazing. I mean, these Ethiopian kids, they don't have, like, some crazy, you know, amount of education behind them. This type of education was done in a classroom setting, where this teacher would go in, and here's a very small example of the way they learn now. It basically asks the kids, what do you want to learn? And they want to learn about the moon, or they want to learn about this. So he goes, he researches it, he presents it to them, and that, you know, that's one way to teach. Another way that he teaches is he'll write on the board 1/2 equals question mark. And we know 1/2 equals 0.5. You're doing, you know, converting it to a decimal. But he says 1/2 equals question mark, and he walks out of the fucking room. And he, like, goes to get lunch, whatever. Doesn't teach him anything. Now, he comes back to the room, and the kids have figured it out. And that's the way he teaches them. He gives them a problem, and he lets them figure it out. It's chaotic, and the kids are all screaming and yelling, like, oh, well, no, it's this. Oh, look at this picture. But they come to a resolution, and they come to it pretty quickly. And the whole class learns. This is a very poor school in Mexico that they did this experiment in. Very poor. And within a year, I think all of the kids were above the national average. Most of them placed in the 99th percentile for math and language, and, you know, one genius girl came out of that school. And this is like a poor school. They don't have computers or anything. Like, this teacher has to go back home, research it on his computer, and then come back and tell it to the kids. So, basically, when you're in control of your learning, you are much more engaged. Same thing with me. I like to go on the internet. I'll search for crazy, wild ideas, and I think that shit is fascinating. And I'm only 21. You know, I'm not like a genius or anything like that. I'm just curious. That's all I am. That's nothing special here. But these kids are learning microbiology when they're 10 years old. These Ethiopian kids are learning how to use iPads within days. I mean, this is essentially the next generation of geniuses if this education model is really, you know, utilized. You know, kids don't learn through being, you know, just preached to. You can't preach to a fucking kid. They don't care. And that's the way that we evolved as a species. You don't sit, you know, human beings are not designed to sit down and learn. We're supposed to engage and hunt and kill and learn with our hands and play and laugh. Anyway, guys, it's been real. I went on way too long. I love you guys. Subscribe.